What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with my Week 7 battle of the National Pokeball League. We have entered Week 7, and we find ourselves in a pretty good position right now with a 4-2 record and a +4 differential. You can see the standings now in front of you. This is actually good for 3rd place in the entire league if the season were to end today. However, that does not mean that we are safe, and does not mean that we are in the playoffs, because look how close the playoff race is for my division. Even the 5th place team in my conference, rather, has a +6 differential, a better differential than I do, despite having one less win. So one slip up from any of us here between my position and the 5th position could mean no playoffs between us. So this week is huge. Every single week from here till the end of the season is huge, and we definitely need to win this game. But we are against none other than my Kryptonite this week in Moxie and Fernape. I have never been able to beat him in the past. A kind of interesting fact here that I can associate with this: out of everyone in the entire community that I have played at least 3 times in draft format, he is the only person I have never beaten. So this is going to be tough for sure. It's a stylistic thing, I think. It's not that I think he's necessarily that much better than me in the format. I think that he is very good. I think that I am at least equally as good. However, I have never been able to beat him because I can't figure this man out. Hopefully we can pull it off this time, but I guess we'll see what happens on that. But make sure to check him out. He goes by Moxie and Fernape. If you're not familiar with him, he will be linked in the description below. Make sure to check out his channel, as he definitely is a really good guy, and I would recommend giving him a look. Now let's take a look at this matchup a little bit, as my opponent Blake has Necrozma, Infernape, Zygarde 10%, Togekiss, Snorlax, Registeel, Electivire, Vaporeon, Drapion, Claydol, and Mega Venusaur, with the Infernape being his Z captain. So he has a lot of threats on his team. I think the Zygarde 10% is actually a pretty big threat against me. Just in general, my team is weak to Zygarde forms. However, I do now have the Cresselia, which is pretty nice in terms of dealing with that. The problem being, if you look at how Blake played against Cresselia earlier in the season, he was actually able to make a Zygarde set that was able to effectively neutralize Cresselia and not really be beaten by a Mono Psychic Crest, as he was running Pain Split on the Zygarde. So really cool prep on his end, and his prep all season has been really cool. Very tough to predict, and that's why I struggle against him so much. You can't predict him, and even in battle, I feel like it's kind of tough to predict him as well. So we've got our hands full this week, most definitely. But he's got a really fat team as well. In addition to the Zygarde, even the Infernape, which is a big threat offensively, it's more his defense that's probably the most annoying aspect of his team. As the combination Necrozma, Vaporeon, and Mega Venusaur, and even Togekiss to an extent, and Registeel too, like it's so gross. It's fat and gross and really tough to break through. So I think that's been a big reason why he's had a very good start to the season. He's kind of trailed off here the past few weeks, but at the start of the season he was the last unbeaten. So he definitely has a solid team and knows how to use what he has. So props to him on that for sure. But we got to make sure we can break through that bulk, and that's something that my team might actually struggle with a little bit, just looking at the matchup, as I only have a few ways to really break through that well. Those being the Terrakion and the Zangoose, as well as more of a Stall Breaker Crobat. Those are all really nice ways to help me break through it. Other than that, though, I don't have a whole lot of ways to do that. I could bring something like Calm Mind Cresselia, but the recent pickup of the Drapion on his team makes that a lot harder to use. So it's kind of unfortunate that he actually got Drapion, I believe, right before this game. But yeah, so that kind of puts a damper on Cress's day a little bit, having that Drapion now. But also the Goodra could be pretty good against him, both defensively and offensively. Something along the lines of a Cursed Goodra actually matches up very well against his team, I feel. And that's exactly what I'm going to build my team around here for this week. So we're keeping it kind of brief this time. I am a little short on time this weekend, unfortunately. Now that I do have to worry about 2 leagues at once, it's a little bit harder to put, as much focus and effort on one league whenever I have to worry about 2. So I do apologize if this might seem a little bit shorter and less in-depth than usual for my NPL uploads, but I'll still try to include everything that is important, of course. But let's go ahead and take a look at the team that I'm deciding to bring here this week. So first things first, I do have my Swampert as my Stealth Rocker. I don't think he can really afford to bring the Togekiss in this matchup, and that is his only means of removal on his entire team. So whenever I get Stealth Rock up, I do think they are there to stay. The reason why I don't think he might bring the Togekiss is because I do have Crobat, Jirachi, Terrakion, like right out of the gates on my draft, as well as Rotom Wash, all of which beat Togekiss. And when my first 4 picks all can beat his only removal, I don't really think he's going to feel inclined to bring his removal. So whenever the rocks go up, they should be there to stay, I would hope. And with this much defense investment, as well as the Spadef, I'll be able to deal with a variety of threats on his team, most notably the Zygarde 10 and the, excuse that sound in the background if you could hear it, I don't think you could. But anyways, most notably this helps deal with the Zygarde 10% and the Infernape. Rindoberry, of course, for the Infernape, but most notably the Zygarde 10, I feel, as what you'll see as this team unfolds is that my Cresselia isn't really designed to beat Zygarde 10 defensively, just because I think he has a good grip on how to handle that kind of Cresselia. So it's a different kind of crest set, so I needed to have an additional way, I felt, in order to defensively check the Zygarde, and we'll see how that comes into play here whenever we get to the battle, but I'm going to come back to this. It's kind of interesting how this has an impact on how the game plays out. So other than that, Earthquake and Ice Punch, pretty much perfect coverage against this team, which is nice, at least neutral coverage against everything, and Roar to help shuffle him around on the Stealth Rock, because I don't think he'll be able to remove them. Also lets me phase out a Dragon Dance Zygarde, or maybe you're an SD Infernape or something like that. So next up is the Breaker. So this is the Terrakion, Swords Dance, Quick Attack, Stone Edge, and Close Combat with the Rocky and Z at +2. Z Stone Edge kills literally anything on his team that is not named Registeel, so that's kind of nice. And especially after some Rocks chip damage on other members of his team, this definitely can put in the work. What I really need this to do is to break through the fat and to make it so that he has very limited ways to deal with my Wincon in the back being the Goodra, which I will show here in a second, but I really need this to do his job if he brings a fatter team. If he brings a fatter team and this fails to do his job, I will lose almost guaranteed. So this is a very, very important Pokemon in this matchup, and quite frankly, it just destroys him. It needs to get like 2 kills, maybe 3, for me to consider that it's done its job. So we'll see how that comes into play as well when we get to the battle. Now, next up we have the Crobat, which is the Stall Breaker variant with Taunt and Super Fang. Really good against this team. Brave Bird also helps me break down the Mega Venusaur and just general things on his team, just in case I'm not able to obviously get the complete kill with Super Fang. I want to be able to finish the job, and that's what Brave Bird is there for. And I do have the Roost as well for recovery, as well as the Black Slush. This is just a very bulky set with enough investment to I guess the attack investment isn't really a specific benchmark. It's more the fact that I have nearly max HP and enough speed for his Zygarde, and then just the rest in attack for my Brave Birds to do as much damage as possible to the Zygarde, Infernape, and Mega Venusaur. So that's the Crobat set, also super good against him. Just a very good way to keep the stage neutral between us. It makes sure that his defense does not get out of hand. That's basically the Crobat's role here in this game. So next up is the Jirachi. This is an interesting set, so it's kind of another Zygarde lure, and you'll see a lot of ways for my team to really take advantage of the Zygarde. And yeah, so this is a Shukaberry set with the Ice Punch, so it's a very good lure for that. Heart Stamp allows me to wear down various things on his team, like the Vaporeon if I get enough flinches, as well as the Mega Venusaur, most notably, and then Toxic to help wear down the fat stuff as well. So this doesn't really touch the Registeel, but I do have Wish that I can throw up against a Registeel, and that also allow me to go into my Swampert to heal up and keep that thing around longer for things like the Zygarde and the Infernape. So the combination of Jirachi and Swampert is really that defensive core that is designed to keep me running here throughout this game. Overall, this is just a very bulky mon with speed. It's enough speed for, let me think off the top of my head, and bounce back to the Giraffe real quick. It's enough speed for, I believe... I can't remember off the top of my head. It looks like it's a base 95. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's the Electivire. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's the Electivire. But anyways, it does have a lot of bulk, and then the rest just in my offense is, again, kind of like Crobat, just to help me wear down his fatter stuff a little bit quicker. So that's the Jirachi. Next up is the Goodra, the Wincon. We already talked about this before, being a Curse Goodra with Dragon Tail and Thunder Punch that hits everything. I really don't expect to see the Togekiss, and as a result, I don't think he will bring it, and as a result, I easily could have not brought Thunder Punch on this set, is what I meant to say. It could have just been Mono Dragon Tail, as otherwise Dragon coverage is sufficient for his whole team, but I kind of chickened out on that. I went with Thunder Punch. I think it's still the best call, because it also helps me deal with the Vaporeon as well, which could be a bit of a nuisance for this set, but in general, this wins, especially in a last mon scenario. This should be able to win the game as long as he doesn't have just like a really good setup sweeper in the back to set up alongside me and prevent me from winning. So So yeah, super good against him for sure. And this is kind of what the whole team is tailored around, trying to get rid of the threats that can give this thing a lot of trouble late game, and I should be able to win with this late game, most likely here in this matchup. Now, last up is a little bit of a trickery set, pun intended, as this is a Trick Cresselia Choice Scarf with enough speed for the Zygarde, as well as enough defense investment to deal with outrages from the Zygarde as well. So yeah, pretty nice overall. The special attack investment also allows me to OHKO the most likely Zygarde spread, which is pretty nice with the Ice Beam, of course. So the combination of Psychic, Ice Beam, and Moonlight does pretty much all I need Cresselia to do in this matchup. I could have gone with something like a Calm Mind, like more of a standard Calm Mind set, but I don't know. Blake has a way of really dealing well and unconventionally with more standard sets, so I didn't really want to bring something like a Calm Mind Cresselia in this matchup because I felt like that was too unpredictable and he would have some pretty nasty ways to deal with that. So that's the team. Went over that pretty quickly this time around, but I hope it all made sense as to why I brought what I did. Now let's go ahead and hop right on over to the battle so we can see what went down here. This is a game. So my opponent decided to bring the Drapion, Mega Venusaur, Vaporeon, Necrozma, Infernape, and the Registeel. Now I really considered bringing Zangoose in this matchup. It was on the first draft of the team, and looking at what he brought here, I'm kicking myself for not bringing the Zangoose. Also, just remember, Drapion is base 95, so that was the reasoning behind the Jirachi speed. But anyways, yeah, so I'm kind of kicking myself for not bringing the Zangoose immediately because he brought all of his fat. I thought that just having Zangoose in the back, knowing that I love bringing Zangoose against slower, fatter teams like Cheese's earlier in the season, I thought he would be more inclined to bring at least more of a balanced build than what this is looking like here. But this is looking fat, like really fat balance with Infernape for his offense, maybe an offensive Drapion. So this is just a super fat team that he brought. If I brought Zangoose, he would be in for a world of hurt, but because I did not bring Zangoose, it's looking a little bit of a annoying team to play against for sure. I need to be able to break down things like the Vaporeon and the Registeel early so that my Crobat can put in the work that I know it really can. Even breaking down Necrozma would be nice, but Crobat certainly could do a ton of work in this game because he brought more of a fatter build overall. But yeah, so I think the most important member of this team for me to break down is that Vaporeon. The issue is doing that because my team isn't really the best at dealing with certain Vaporeon sets, and you will see as this battle unfolds that he has this Wish, Protect, Roar, Scald Vaporeon set, which actually can do a lot of damage against my team, and it's super hard for me to break through that, especially because the Goodra cannot set up in Vaporeon's face. So yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on as this battle unfolds. But in terms of the lead matchup here, I do expect him to most likely lead with his Necrozma, as that is the best rocker on his team because it does beat my only Defogger and Crobat, at least from a full health scenario. So I'm expecting Necrozma to be his rocker instead of the Infernape or Registeel. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to counter lead that with my own rocker, as he didn't bring the Togekiss, so as soon as my rocks go up as well, they are there to stay just like his is, so, or his are rather. So that's exactly what's going to happen here on turn 1, and let's go ahead and jump right on into this, as he is going to lead off with the Necrozma, as I lead off with the Swampert, and on turn 1, we're just going to trade rocks here, I believe, as that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now here, he's probably just going to go for a Psychic, or maybe switch out as he actually goes into his Vaporeon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hard into my Jirachi, expecting that Psychic, as by going into Jirachi, I might be able to fire off a Toxic on the following turn, which could have been really nice here in the early game. As here, I'm just going to go into my Scudra, into my Goodra on the Scald, and he gets the burn immediately, but it's not the worst thing in the world because I do have the rest on this. But what I just realized, honestly, like I finally realized this right here on turn 3, is that I did not bring good Scald switch-ins in this matchup. I really didn't, and I really should have as well, but this is going to become a theme throughout the battle. I do not have Scald switch-ins on this team, and that's going to come back to hurt me a lot, and as you will see here as we move forward. So here I'm going to go into my Cresselia on the Infernape's U-turn, so kind of a predictable play here. I'm actually going to pause on this turn as well. So yeah, so kind of predictable there potentially on my end, but even so. Yeah, so here I go for the Trick with my Cresselia. The reason why I had Trick in the first place was to cripple stuff like the Vaporeon, and Man, this was a misplay on my end. I'm going to admit this was a pretty bad misplay on my end. I should not have burned that Choice Scarf on the Registeel. The key component of a bulky team like what Blake brought in this matchup is the Wish Passer. And that Wish Passer here is obviously Vaporeon. I've already identified at this point in the battle that I don't have great Scald Switch-ins. I really should have saved that Choice Scarf to trick it to the Vaporeon, because by tricking the Vaporeon, that means that his means of regeneration for his team is neutralized, okay? And with this being a Rocky Helmet Registeel, I don't know why I was so scared of it, honestly, but with this being a Rocky Helmet Registeel, that's not a threat against my team. That would have been what he had for the Zangoose. Quite frankly, that was probably his Zangoose counter with this Registeel. And because I didn't bring Zangoose, this thing isn't a threat to me at all. I have Taunt and Recovery on my Crobat, so I beat this thing 1v1 with that. I have Swampert. I have Jirachi, which can't touch this anyways, it doesn't matter. Terrakion doesn't really care, because close combat is close combat and would do a ton of damage, and Goodra doesn't really care about this either. So, yeah, this was a misplay on my part going for the trick. I should have saved that for the Vaporeon, but we're going to move on from that. So he's going to Toxic me on my trick, and here I have a pretty free switch into my Crobat or my Jirachi, because either of them will resist the Toxic, but he makes a good play here and doubles out into his Vaporeon, also probably recognizing that I didn't bring the best responses to this monster, as here I'm just going to go for the Super Fang to get this thing weakened down, and he's going to crit me with a Scald. And the reason why this matters, okay, is that if he did not crit me with a Scald, I would be outside of range of a second Scald, and I'd be able to taunt on this turn and keep this Vaporeon low. Okay, this was actually a very key moment of the game, because if I could keep this Vaporeon low, it remains in range of everything on my team that is not named the Cresselia, and I don't need to send out Cresselia versus anything on his team necessarily. So this was pivotal in this game. Okay, this turn, freaking pivotal. Alright, so moving on from there. He, I believe, is going to just Wish up here on my Forced Roost, and that's exactly what he does, so he wouldn't have been able to go for a Wish on that turn without the critical hit from the Scald. So I'm going to go into my Goodra here, because it's my only real Scald switch in on this team, like I've already established. Now here, he's going to receive his Wish. As I'm getting a little bit low, I'm starting to kind of feel pressure to rest up with my Goodra, so that's what I'm going to do here, as I believe this is the turn wait here. He just goes for a Scald again. Pretty soon he's going to reveal the Roar. I don't think he's revealed it yet, but as soon as he reveals the Roar, I'm like, oh boy, this might be a long game for sure. So I'm going to go into my Crest here, as it's easily the most expendable member of my team, and I might be able to recover up on this Vaporeon, as he actually just goes for the Roar there. He roars me into Terrakion, which kind of sucks, because now it's pretty obvious that I'm going to switch out and he could just roar again. That's exactly what he does, because he is a good player, and he forces me into my Crobat once again. Now here, I go for that Super Fang, trying to get him in that same position that he was in before. But of course he has a much higher amount of health now, at least by about 10% or so. So I'm going to go for that taunt, just trying to keep him low once again. But he can just go for a Scald now instead of attempting to Wish on that taunt like he would have been more tempted to earlier. Yeah, so this just sucks. So here I believe I Roost a Super Fang again, expecting him to switch into this or the Necrozma, and that's exactly what happens as it goes into this Registeel. Now here, knowing that it's a Registeel and can't really touch me, I can Roost to scout for what he wants to go for, and his Earthquake is doing less than my Roosts that are recovering, so I am going to be able to slowly recover on this. So here what I'm actually able to do, because he locked into the Earthquake, is I actually could have gone for another Super Fang, and in hindsight that might have been a slightly better play, but he actually ends up going into his Venusaur on my Roost, which means that I can just go for a taunt here just to see what he wants to go for. There's really no ways that a Venusaur can beat me when he is taunted. He could be like Curse or something, but he has to have a Curse up to be able to deal with me, as here I'm going to have a very free opportunity to Super Fang once again. So I'm slowly whittling down his bad stuff. Stuff is really starting to look in range of the Terrakion, which we'll see how that comes into play as well here late game. It's looking like Terrakion definitely has a good chance here, as Necrozma is going to just go for the Dark Pulse, expecting my Jirachi as I go into my Swampert. Here I'm going to Roar, expecting the Mega Venusaur to come in, just because I want to continue to whittle it down, as I'm able to force him into his Infernape. Now here I do feel forced to go for an Earthquake, just in case he does have the Grass Knot, so I do just go for the Earthquake as he goes into the Mega Venusaur once again, so unfortunately I get that play wrong, as here it's a very likely Synthesis. I could again just go for a Roar, but my better play is to go into my Jirachi or my Crobat, just to make sure that I have a way to deal with this Mega Venusaur as best as possible, as I am going to throw up a Wish with my Jirachi as he fires off a Leech Seed, so this is revealing to be a very standard looking Mega Venusaur set, which is good knowledge to have, as I'm just going to go hard into my Goodra to receive the Wish and deal with whatever he wants to go into. I know that I am currently a sleeping Goodra, and I was starting to, again, get close to 50% of my health, so I wanted to get that health back as quickly as possible. As here, he's just going to fire off his own Wish with the Vaporeon, and I'm going to burn a turn of sleep as he goes for a Roar, so that's pretty cool. Nice and productive turn there, as he's going to get his health back once again with the Vaporeon, and in comes my Crobat. So here I'm going to go for another Super Fang, just to keep this thing low, but now we're in a position where he can just Wish up on my Super Fangs, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it, so I lost my opportunity to break down this Vaporeon with the Crobat earlier in the game, which definitely does suck. So here, I don't know how long this exchange goes on for. It feels like this exchange happens a lot throughout the battle, just Crobat versus Vaporeon, no one really making a move, we're both just recovering on each other. He's scalding me over and over again, I'm Super Fanging and taunting and roosting, and you know what, it's kind of repetitive, so okay, now he's going to finally switch out into the Necrozma, as I believe I'm just going to Roost here once again because it's my play to make. And here I could try to go for a Brave Bird or something. I don't think it would even get close to killing Necrozma this one. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go hard into my Jirachi, expecting him to go for a Psychic, and that's exactly what he does. Now here I'm going to pivot, I believe, back into my Terrakion, expecting the Dark Pulse, just in case he wants to make that play. And that's exactly what I do, is he actually pulls a double into his Vaporeon. So did he predict that? I'm not exactly sure. I think he probably did. Or it was just a safe middle ground for him regardless, just to scout out my Jirachi a little bit. But here I'm forced to go back into my Goodra once again, as I'm definitely not leaving my Terrakion in versus the Vaporeon, and he knows this, so he goes for a Roar and gets me out of there. So here I just fire off a Moonlight with my Cresselia versus the Vaporeon, and now I expect him to go into his Drapion, most likely because that's a good offensive play on this turn. So I decide to go for a Trick just to get rid of whatever item this Drapion might have, and it turns out to be Salac Berry. Okay, so this is a threat. Because he is Salac Berry, it means that he is like 99% going to have sub on this Drapion. He has no reason not to sub on this turn. So I am going to go hard into my Terrakion. That's the best way I can offensively deal with a sub Drapion. I'm going to go hard into my Terrakion because I need to be able to break this sub. Now, as he subs, no surprise. Now, I am guaranteed outside of range of an Adamant Max Attack Earthquake from Drapion, okay? What I can do on this turn is I break the sub with Stone Edge, I'm guaranteed to live the Earthquake, and I'm guaranteed still out of range of Stealth Rock later on. Okay. Now, what I can do, let's go ahead and let this play out, man. Okay, I'll wait a second. I'll wait a second. So what I can do is I break the sub, and he Earthquakes me. I survive outside of range of rocks. Okay, now, on the following turn, I have the option of Swords Dancing, expecting him to preserve the Drapion that he needs in order to break down a potential Akaberry Jirachi. He needs this Drapion in order to make sure that he can beat the Cresselia, as I have not yet revealed if I have Healing Wish on Jirachi to maybe get rid of the Toxic, and just in general, Cresselia is an enormous nuisance for his team if he loses the Drapion. So I could Swords Dance on that following turn, as he probably tries to preserve the Drapion. And what that means is if I get that Swords Dance off with the Terrakion, that means that I get one kill, guaranteed, with the Continental Crush, and then he'll be forced to go into his Infernape and risk a Speed Tie with Mach Punch, in which case if I win that Speed Tie, I have the Quick Attack Terrakion, I'd be able to weaken down the Infernape, meaning that he would only have probably one more switch into Stealth Rock according to the damage calc if he has more of a standard spread. He would have one switch into Stealth Rock, meaning that Goodra is basically able to win the game with ease if this sequence of plays were to take place. I hope that made sense. I hope you were able to follow that. It makes sense in my head, but regardless, the fact of the matter is this play is freaking crucial, okay? So we're going to resume as I miss a Stone Edge. That sucks. I have another chance next turn, right? No. Alright. So, yeah, we get crit and we miss the Stone Edge on the same turn. F. Okay, it's bad. That was really, really bad, alright? Because he brought a fat team, my Breaker just got knocked out without doing anything at all. This is bad. All right, we weren't able to break through the Vaporeon with Crobat early in the game. We weren't able to deal with this Drapion now at probably the most crucial point of the game to be able to prevent. Or just crucial because Terrakion's on the field. Terrakion's super important against his whole team. So, yeah, that happened. And I'm going to go ahead and let the battle continue playing out, and I'm actually going to speed it up now because... Sorry, I turned the music on instead of speeding it up. Anyways, I'm going to speed it up now because what's going to happen is that I don't have ways to break through his bulk. Okay, the Vaporeon is too healthy. The Venusaur is still too healthy. Venusaur is currently at full health. Okay, Venusaur's at full health. The Drapion is still a huge nuisance for Crest plus Jirachi. At this point, I am in a freaking horrible position, alright, because I was not able to get off the breaking power from the Terrakion that I am pretty confident I would have been able to do on against the Drapion, as that was my opportunity to get out the Swords Dance and start breaking through his team. He had to preserve the Drapion. I really, really think he would have preserved on that turn, giving me the SD and the kill and hopefully the chip damage off on the Infernape, assuming he was Jolly Infernape. I think he was Jolly, making the Mach Punch that I know he has a speed tie between the Infernape and the Terrakion. But, yeah, by being able to break through his team with Terrakion, that would mean that the door is open much easier for my Goodra later on, which would have put me in a fantastic position with Goodra. So, that definitely sucks. It's the combination of the Crobat getting crit earlier in the game whenever it could have kept the Vaporeon low, as well as this whole Terrakion fiasco versus the Drapion that is putting me in a horrible position where I'm actually at risk of getting 6-0'd. So yeah, that's Pokemon in a nutshell. Am I salty? I'm a little bit salty, I'm not going to lie, but, like, obviously I'm not, like, mad about it, if that makes sense. I'm salty, but I'm not mad because it's Pokemon, it's a game we choose to play, but, yeah, it's kind of dumb that this is what's going on here, for this particular game, but I hope I've explained my case well enough as to why I felt like I had a strong chance of being able to win the game if the hacks did not occur, but it's impossible to really know what would have happened at this point now because of, how those plays played out. Here I have a last-ditch effort of Last Mongoodra winning the game. I believe I go for a Curse on this turn just in case he wants to switch out. As if I can get off that Curse as he chokes and goes into his... literally anything else on his team, then Goodra could have actually won in that last mon scenario, as all I really needed was that Curse up to be able to win the game, but unfortunately I was not able to get him to choke, and we're going to catch the 5-0L. So thanks Pokemon, you're great. Now the problem about this, and the reason why I'm salty, not because I lost a game of Pokemon, I'm salty because now we lose 5 differential. We are now 4-3 -1, and we are in 5th place in my conference after being 3rd in the entire league the previous week, and this means that we have to beat Gypsy and Rob Jr. and Razor to be able to advance the playoffs. Most likely, that's how that works out. I need to win out, or I need Rob to lose twice, one of which to me. So yeah, this is bad. We're suddenly, from being 3rd in the entire league to being at risk of not making playoffs, in dangerous risk of not making playoffs, just because RNG, boys. So I wouldn't have minded losing the game to a lower differential if it played out how in a hacksless game of Pokemon might have played out. I wouldn't have minded losing that game because that means I got outplayed, outprepped, etc. But when this is what happens and it really drains my best chances of playoffs, it's pretty lame, obviously. So, yeah, I guess I'm not going to ramble on anymore about that. I think I've made my point clear. So, still, regardless of all that, Blake did play very well, so I do want to give my opponent full credit for playing well in this game. I don't think he made misplays. I think he played out exactly how he should have given the circumstances. On my end, I should have brought proper Scald switch-ins, proper ways to deal with the Vaporeon. Definitely should have had Zangoose on the team to help me break through his fat. So it's not all, it's not that I brought the perfect team here. I don't think it was the perfect team. I just think that I definitely could have won the game. I had a good chance to win the game if things had not gone against me the way that they did in this matchup. So, you know, what can you do, though? It's in the past, so we're going to move on. Next week, we have a game against Gypsy and the Sydney Sharpedos, so always fun to play Gypsy. Widely considered the best in the format. right now, just period in the world. So it's obviously a tough task ahead of us, but we like challenges, and we're going to see if we can put it to them. It should be a good game for sure. Really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are as well. We're going to bring the A game and see if we can knock them off. So thanks for watching, guys. Sorry about the L this week. We did the best we could, but you know, RNGesus was not with us for this week for sure. So thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you all next time. Peace.